You were cordially invited to celebrate the birth of a legend, an invitation extended to Hollywood's elite, a night when the wildest parties and the most extravagant displays of wealth took place. This was the world where Diddy, a name synonymous with power and opulence, reigned supreme. The man who clinked glasses with the biggest stars and threw the most exclusive parties. But now, years later, in a quiet federal courtroom, the same man is facing his former closest friend, Will Smith, who stands on the opposite side, declaring with unwavering resolve, "I can't stay silent any longer." The weight of those words reverberated through the air. Now found himself standing as a witness, his testimony striking at the heart of a world built on deception, manipulation, and unimaginable horrors. How had it come to this? As the doors to this courtroom opened, the world stood still. But the question was, why? Was it a matter of vengeance, a feud between two titans who had long ago lost their shine? Or was it something much deeper, a father's desperate attempt to shield his family from a monster hiding in plain sight? But for the countless others who had fallen victim to Diddy's grasp, his manipulation, and his unyielding power. The courtroom was tense as every word Will spoke felt like a hammer blow, each testimony a nail driven deeper into the coffin of Diddy's carefully constructed empire. As Will's voice echoed through the room, one thing became clear. This was not just a man seeking to settle a score. Will Smith was here to expose the darkest corners of Hollywood's most glittering world, where power, fame, and fortune concealed the most heinous of crimes. He was here to speak for the victims, the women who were too terrified to speak, the ones who had been crushed under Diddy's relentless control. "I can't stay silent any longer," Will began, his voice steady but filled with an emotion that made every word feel like a gut punch. Sean Combs isn't human. He's a demon, a monster who has manipulated, humiliated, and broken countless lives, including mine and my son's. His words hit like a bombshell. The room fell into stunned silence, the audience unsure of what was coming next, but knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. Will didn't just speak about the past. He revealed the hidden world he had been part of for years, a world that many would rather keep buried, a world where the lines between right and wrong were blurred, and where power was wielded like a weapon to break people down. Will spoke about the early days when he first crossed paths with Diddy in the 1990s. Both men were rising stars in the entertainment world, each carving out their own path, one filled with glitz and glamour, where the doors to the most exclusive parties were always open. It was a world where the elite came together, where million-dollar deals were made over expensive bottles of champagne, and where the air was thick with ambition. He believed that he had been chosen by Diddy for a reason, to join the ranks of Hollywood's most powerful figures. But as the years went by, that illusion shattered. The glittering surface concealed a darker reality. What were sold to the world as extravagant soirees were, in fact, gateways to something far more sinister. They were the entry points into a world where control and manipulation reigned supreme, where people's lives were controlled by those at the top, and where the vulnerable were exploited for the whims of the powerful. He spoke of the so-called freak-off parties, an exclusive gathering of Hollywood's elite, but one that had a much darker underbelly. These parties, once thought to be symbols of decadence and luxury, were in fact nothing more than a grotesque theater of manipulation. Will described walking into these rooms where security guards stood like sentinels and where phones were confiscated at the door. As Will's voice grew heavier with each word, the chilling truth came to light. These gatherings were not just about pleasure and excess. Will spoke of seeing young girls, some not even 18, being ushered into these parties, treated like nothing more than objects to be used and discarded. They were coerced into taking pills that stripped away their control, all in service of the powerful guests who roamed the halls. But it wasn't just the young women who were victims. Will himself had fallen victim to Diddy's manipulation. He spoke of a night in 2013 at Diddy's Miami mansion, when he saw Cassie Ventura, Diddy's girlfriend at the time, treated as an object, forced to entertain other men, including Will. When Will refused, Diddy's response was chilling. "Will, you don't get to choose here." That moment, Will recalled, was the moment he saw the true face of Diddy. The man he had once called a friend was not the man he thought he was. And as Will's memories flooded back, he realized just how deep the darkness went. He couldn't pretend that he was just a part of the game, that he was just another player in Hollywood's dangerous game of power. He confronted Diddy, telling him that he couldn't keep doing it, that he was a father, a husband, but Diddy, ever the manipulator, didn't take kindly to Will's defiance. "You think walking away is that easy, Will?" Diddy said, his voice low and filled with menace. Will, buoyed by his fame and influence, believed he could walk away unscathed. But he was wrong. The consequences of his defiance came quickly, and they were devastating. By 2015, just months after his confrontation with Diddy, Will's career began to crumble. Roles that had been promised vanished without explanation. Film projects he had worked tirelessly on were canceled, and rumors about his personal life began to spread like wildfire. The whispers were cruel, relentless. They said Will was unstable, that he was unfaithful, even suggesting that he had a secret relationship with Diddy. The rumors seemed designed to destroy him, and Will soon realized that Diddy was behind it all. Diddy had a network, a web of connections in the entertainment world, and he was using that network to make sure Will would never escape his grasp. He stood his ground, declining invitations to Diddy's freak-off parties and ignoring the veiled threats from Diddy's associates. He had made his choice, and he would not be intimidated. Then came the video, a video that would change everything. Will received it on his phone one fateful night in late 2015. It was from an unknown number, later traced to one of Diddy's closest aides. Will opened it, and his heart stopped. The video showed his son, Jaden, just 17 years old, at one of Diddy's infamous parties. Surrounded by strangers, liquor poured over him, his face contorted in fear and humiliation. Diddy stood in the background, a triumphant grin on his face. The pain from that video was unbearable. Will's son, his flesh and blood, had been dragged into Diddy's world, humiliated and mocked for the pleasure of Diddy and his friends. Will's heart shattered as he watched his son's agony, and he realized that this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about protecting his family from the monster Diddy had become. "I'll never forgive myself for letting my son get near Diddy," Will said, his voice breaking as tears streamed down his face. "He's not human. He's a monster." With the video as proof, Will knew he had no choice but to act. He couldn't allow Diddy to continue his reign of terror, not over his son, not over anyone. And so, Will gathered his evidence, secret recordings, security footage, photographs, and financial records, and brought it all to light. As Will continued his testimony, he introduced evidence that exposed Diddy's criminal empire. He showed videos of women being held captive, forced into servitude for VIP guests at Diddy's parties. He revealed photographs of a hidden tunnel beneath Diddy's mansion, where young women were kept like prisoners. Will's evidence didn't just expose Diddy, it revealed a network of extortion, manipulation, and control that stretched far beyond anything anyone could have imagined. The final piece of evidence was the most devastating. Video footage of Jaden, humiliated at one of Diddy's parties, his tears a reflection of the pain Will felt in his heart. Will's voice trembled as he showed the world the depth of Diddy's cruelty. "This is the man I once called a friend," Will said, his eyes filled with rage and sorrow. "And this is the man who almost destroyed my family." Diddy's defense team scrambled to discredit Will's testimony, but the evidence was irrefutable. Will's revelations struck like a hurricane, tearing through Diddy's defense and exposing the truth behind the facade. Hollywood's darkest secrets were now out in the open, and the fallout would be felt for years to come. As Will stepped out of the courtroom, he knew the battle wasn't over. But he had done what needed to be done. He had stood up for his family, for the victims, and for the truth. And in doing so, he had become the face of a movement that would reshape Hollywood forever. "This isn't about fame," Will said as reporters swarmed around him. "I'm doing this for my son, for the girls held captive, and for those who have no voice. If I don't speak up, who will? The world is watching, and the reckoning has only just begun. Will Hollywood's darkest secrets finally be exposed, or will power and wealth once again reign supreme? The answer is coming, and Will Smith is leading the charge.